One.
And avoiding
brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
I'm Josh from Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. I hope you are staying healthy. We continue to respond to structural, fire, and water emergencies. We are combating COVID-19 with our highly trained staff and latest disinfection systems, providing preventative and reactive disinfection to facilities around the region, while working with area hospitals on isolation areas and air filtering. At Panhandle, we continue to follow social distancing and hygiene protocols. We are dedicated to our community, and together, we will get through this.
Hello, everyone, from the Watchdog. I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday under mostly cloudy skies with a slight chance for a scattered shower, a daytime high near 72. Overnight low of 66 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Showers likely. Those showers continue on and off as we go through your Wednesday. It could be heavy at times with temperatures in the lower 70s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
On air, online, on demand, and on video. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
65 degrees still, clear skies at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 65 and clearing up a little bit, but still cloudy. Here at the home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling. 65 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios. Downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. We are going to look for some rain today. It's going to be cloudy all day long. Pretty much a verstumpt kind of day today. Tomorrow, even rainier. Could be some significant downpours and heavy, steady rain tomorrow. I think Zach said that we have an early alert for excessive rainfall. I think that's what he said. So next couple of days is going to be kind of dark and dreary and rainy a little bit today, a good bit more tomorrow. Looking for a high today of 76, then drop down to 71 tomorrow. I'm glad the temperatures are dropping. As I mentioned earlier, my home air conditioner is not working. So if you can hear if there's a little sound in the background, like an airplane landing or something, I have a fan here in the studio. I don't normally do that. So just, if you hear some strange noises in the background, that's what it is. 8:11 on the Watchdog Morning Show. What are we doing and where are we going today? We'll have a COVID update not too far from now. We're going to be talking about Governor Justice's proposal to help out hospitals and other healthcare providers with some state money, CARES Fund money, CARES Act money, because hospitals are putting so much of their resources into COVID-19 care that they're losing some of the elective surgery money, and they have to move people from one facility to another and so on. So the governor wants to help out the hospitals. We'll talk about how he's going to do that coming up a little bit later on. Governor Justice is always saying, why, y'all got to get vaccinated or you're going to die. We're going to start racking up the body bags. Death is on its way. Death is already here. If we don't get vaccinated, it's death. And he's right. I've said this over and over again. He's right. But I'm going to talk next hour with a professor from the University of South Florida who says that's probably not the right message to use to get people to change their mind about not getting the vaccine. He will give us some thoughts on what a better messaging is as well. And I'm using Governor Just as an example. The TV, it's just saturated with these ads of, get the shot, take the shot, do it for your health, do it for you. And I don't think they're doing any good. I mean, I don't think any of these, advertisements, whether they're paid or public service announcements, I don't think they're doing any good. I don't think they're changing people's minds. So how do we do that? I don't know. We'll talk about that coming up next hour. Also, our series from ABC News, America Strong, looking at the resilient efforts being put into their community by many Americans across the country here during the pandemic and in these difficult times. America Strong, it's a weekly series, which will normally be on Monday, but I forgot yesterday, so we'll do it today. And we've been talking about, it's a strange morning. We got off on retirement because Dr. Dave, chief meteorologist at the WTRF TV7 Weather Center, announced his retirement yesterday. So Dr. Dave is leaving us at the end of the week and moving south somewhere. So we've been kind of got us talking about retirement. And of course, Biffy, the Great Resignation, which is the phrase that apparently has been coined to talk about the fact that many baby boomers are retiring a lot earlier than they used to. 65 used to be retirement age. 66 is now technically your full Social Security age. And that's kind of the area people think. But 62 is now the average of people quitting. And many boomers are leaving the work earlier. They're calling it the Great Resignation. Although, Biff, as you said, why do we have to name everything? Why can't we just say people are retiring early?
Right. I mean, just leave it that way. We don't need a fancy name for it. I mean, my goodness, nothing's safe.
Like yesterday, we now have a new phrase, the Henrys. High income, not yet rich. They're Henrys. Okay. These are people who make over $100,000 a year and are still having a hard time making ends meet. I might call them, instead of Henrys, I might call them bad money managers. That's what I might call them. But we've got to give a name to everything. Everything's got to have a name. Everything's got to have a name. The name of Tom Scudieri here on this radio show is our national correspondent. He's here with us this morning as well. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, and no one wants to claim that name as something special for society, thank goodness. It's mine alone.
Do you ever think about retirement?
Oh, I have on occasion, but well, I look at it this way: what is retirement to mean? I don't mean to be too philosophical, but you stop working and are able to enjoy life more full, perhaps. Okay. Well, I enjoy life. I enjoy. We call this work. It is work. It's a job, but I enjoy this. Our conversations and my other reporting and my writing. To me, it's part of what I like about living. So I don't think about it in terms of retirement, that one day I'm going to do what your weather guy did and say I'm done in a week. Now, maybe I will. Maybe one day I'll find a place I want to move to where I can't do this kind of reporting, and I'll find other things that make me happy. But to me, retirement is, as we used to say, a state of mind. And I'm happy with life, and I feel no need to formally give it a name. I have to circle back.
No, I'm completely with you. I had a couple of good friends who are about my age, so as they approached the official retirement age, they could collect the Social Security. They were literally counting it down. They could tell me for like 3 years, 42 days, 6 hours. I mean, they count it down, count it down. And I would always say, I'm not looking to retirement. And they were smart enough. They said, look, Howard, you like what you do. You get up every morning and enjoy the work that you do. And I get that. If you're not lucky enough to be in a position like you and I are, Tom, then it's not as easy to retire, or it's easier to retire.
He's my best friend, my college roommate. we were roommates freshman year and stayed best friends since then. He worked all his career for the city of New York, and he calculated not the date of retirement to be free, but if I retire formally from the city, when do I maximize my benefits? Because that's important, you know. And he already knew what he wanted to do, and he still does the same stuff for the city sort of now and then. You know, they call in the people who know how to do things for certain events, so he's still doing what he likes, like you just said. He retired, you know, by the calculation of maximum financial benefits, which is wise. You know, there's nothing wrong with that part of it, because now he's doing that job still as he wishes and other things that he had already planned to do. I thought that's perfect. And it's the same thing as he says, I don't feel like I've retired. He goes, I just don't work as many hours for the city as I used to, and I do it now on my own. You know, that's the perfect philosophy. Yeah. Well, we're lucky. We are lucky. We have a job that we like.
We are lucky. That's the thing. We're very lucky. And for me, I'm lucky. Look, I broadcast from home anymore. So, you know, I mean, I just come into my home office. I do the show. I work at my leisure throughout the day in preparing the next day's show. And for me, it gives me time to spend with my grandson. And, you know, so why would I, as I've said 4 or 5 times to the audience this morning, but what could I do if I retired? I could go to McDonald's and sit at that table with all the old guys and drink coffee and solve the problems of the world. But that's what I do for a living. So,
well, I was going to say, that's what we do here.
Right. So why would I go somewhere else? Let's talk about a couple of subjects, Tom. Looked like that right-wing rally, Justice for J6, fizzled out pretty good this weekend, didn't it?
Well, I would say, yeah, it fizzled out in the sense that it wasn't a big tumultuous event. There were between 500 and 1,000 folks, depending on how you count. That's not a big turnout by any means, in the scale of Washington protests or demonstrations. But, you know, I'm glad it wasn't trouble. They were prepared. The fence was up. They had police ready, and which is they should have. And I think the narrative approaching it, Howard, was, you know, the people who were going to attend say it's a setup by the feds to arrest you, so that may have kept numbers down. But one of the organizers told reporters, hey, we succeeded. You guys all showed up. So, you know, they got publicity, and there it is. I think the big difference, one of the big difference seems to have been, President Trump is not president now, and he wasn't using that podium to sort of urge people on, and there wasn't a particularly compelling event like January 6th that was the count, obviously. This was a date that they chose for whatever reasons I really didn't understand, but it didn't have that same kind of, foundation for urgency. Yeah, thank you. It's always nice not to have to go to a bad demo, you know.
And I think while I do believe that there was a lot of pre-planning for January 6th, and I do believe that the president's words helped to move that forward faster, the truth of the matter is a lot of what happened on January 6th was a spontaneous occurrence. Not everybody went there planning to attack the Capitol. They went there riled up and angry and believing the election was being stolen and so on. But it was the furor of the mob, if you will, that kind of incited the intensity of January 6th. There was none of that here this weekend, as you point out. There was no real reason to be there on that particular day. They weren't trying to get, Mike Pence to stop the steal or anything. So it just wasn't a big deal. And they made their point. We paid attention to them, and life goes on, I guess.
Howard,
let me ask you about.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to mention to you something I sent you this morning that I've been really intrigued with since we spoke last week. There's been this narrative coming out of D.C. Among people I talked with or read about or listened to about the Joe Manchin-Joe Biden friendship when Manchin was a senator and Biden was vice president, and Senator Manchin felt that he had not been, really talked too much by President Obama, and he was right. President Obama was not the kind of gregarious sort of senator that Manchin is and Biden was and others have been. Obama wasn't in the Senate that long before he became president, so he didn't really have a lot of deep relationships. And it's intriguing to see how this narrative shifted to why Biden treats Manchin with the respect and the courtesy that he does, because he is in the camp. And I'm saying this because of something you said last week about how when Manchin was governor, how he prided himself on being able to reach across lines and come up with these compromise packages to move the state forward. I think I heard you correctly. And Biden, of course, is of the same mindset. He's of the same mindset. So that's one of the reasons why he has always liked Manchin, believing that you don't tell a person they're wrong. That's not going to bring them over. That's almost like you said about the vaccine thing I heard you say, before I came on. You don't tell a person they're wrong. That rarely changes their mind. You just sort of find out what you have in common and kind of work from there. And I saw this emerging since we spoke last week with Manchin and Biden, I think in part because the Democrats are coming up to a very critical moment in this year on a whole host of issues. You can name them, and we have in past conversations. But, Manchin is the key to many of these things because of it. More so, I think, than Kristen Simmons of Arizona, because Manchin has been in the Senate longer than she has been, and he still has a little bit more of influence among his peers because of these friendships.
Yeah, and Joe Biden, I think, is by nature a conciliator. That's what he likes. I mean, he's a conciliator. So he and Manchin are somewhat aligned with that. I think they have a history together. And also, Biden's not stupid. He understands that right this moment, if he can't get Manchin to come at least part way to where he wants him to be, nothing's going to get done. I mean, so
right.
Biden is a conciliator, and he's also a realist, and all of that means, like it or not, and I know some of my audience just gets infuriated when we talk about this, you got to play ball with Joe Manchin. I mean, if you want to get anything done. Now, if you're willing to lose all the battles to somehow claim you're winning the philosophical war, okay.
Yeah.
But if you want to move forward, you're gonna have to work with Manchin, and that's just a reality. And he knows it. That's the other thing. Joe Manchin is very much aware of where he is and what he can do.
And just think about a year ago, or not a year ago, but after Biden was elected, and you're looking at the lineup for the Senate, and people thought, well, Biden's biggest problem is going to be dealing with Senator Sanders, who endorsed him, and it was a big endorsement for him. But because Sanders has this progressive agenda, and he's going to want to push through, which he does, and he is. But Sanders hasn't been the kind of problem or roadblock, or however you want to characterize Senator Manchin, that Senator Manchin has been. So that's why I always like these predictions. They're great. They're great predictions, but it's sort of like you never really know until things get going.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to ask you about something closer to your personal reporting work, which is over at the Pentagon. General Milley has gotten under a lot of fire lately after the latest revelations in the Bob Woodward book. I forget the name of the book now. Rage?
I think Terror or Rage
Anyways,
or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. The new Woodward book says that Milley was concerned about Trump's mental state. He was concerned that Trump might try and do something literally destructive. So he tried to put some procedures in place not to do that. He spoke to the Chinese and others about these things. And there's some folks who are, I mean, even part of us are going, yeah, thank heaven somebody was there to be the adult in the room. But there are a lot of folks that I've been talking to who are saying that's not the role of the military. It's to follow orders from the civilian leaders.
Yes and no. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is a great example of things that irritate me in Washington, is that a book is released, and of course the publicists pick, it's like they cherry pick stuff from the book to sell it, and we all understand that. But it's often not in context. I don't have a personal relationship with General Milley, like I do, by the way, with General McKenzie, who is now Central Command, and that I know General Milley. He knows who I am from being there, but I've never traveled on a trip with him, for example, and other reporters have, and they have said he's incredibly candid on these trips. He likes these small conversations. He's very much upfront about stuff, and they have a respect for that part for him. Okay, I don't want to couch it in any way like I'm suggesting something else. So let's put in perspective a couple things in the book first, and then let's talk about the concerns that are legitimate that some of your listeners have raised. First of all, the fact that General Milley is talking to the Chinese counterparts or any counterparts is great news, because when Jim Mattis was defense secretary, he used to always tell us and tell anybody who listened, you got to have military-to-military contact. So despite what's going on politically, the militaries are talking turkey to each other, and they know they're to avoid an accident. There was concern around the world, properly or not, that President Trump was losing it, okay, mentally, and was unstable and deranged or whatever you want to say. It's not me speaking, listeners. I'm just, And so there was concern among governments, friends and foes, as to what could happen. And, let's face it, the Chinese were concerned. President Trump was saying a lot of anti-Chinese things, and they could see his behavior. So Milley, on the first call, October 30th, he got that cleared from Secretary Esper, who was the defense secretary at the time. So it wasn't like he did this on his own. And there were others listening in on this call. So again, it's not a quote, secret call. Let's put that off the table right now. I'm curious as how the call was made, because we don't have a hotline with Beijing like we do with Russia. Okay, so there's no hotline. But that's sort of like, oh, I wonder how they did this. I'm kind of curious. Okay. So then the second call was on, after January 6th, right around that time, which was a big deal when, people were looking at what happened people around the world looking at how January 6th, is America going to fall apart, and you have, various opinions of President Trump. So Milley then gets the second call. Now here's the part that I'd like to have answered in some clarity, and maybe we'll get this when he goes before Congress at the end of this month. He's reputed to have said to his Chinese counterpart, that if we're going to attack you, I'll let you know in advance. That doesn't sound like something he would say. Okay, but that doesn't mean he didn't say it. I'm just saying, based on what other reporters who know him well, and I had this discussion with him again yesterday, not with Billy, but with other reporters who travel with him. They're all perplexed at hearing this attributed to him. That would be beyond the pale, because you don't tell an enemy, well, maybe he told him that to mollify them, but, whether he would have done that or not, who knows. So that's the calls. And again, those calls were not secret. He made other calls, as you said, to allies during that same time period to reassure them as well. So the calls themselves really aren't a problem. In fact, yesterday, Adam Smith, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, said these calls are good. He basically said the same thing we just talked about, other than that one line. Now, the other part that's more troublesome to some people, and is what you mentioned, is the story that he tried to insert himself, as it goes, into the process for a nuclear launch. General Milley is the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and in that sense, he's the highest rank. He's the highest soldier or military person in the country. But he actually has no command authority, Howard. He doesn't command troops. He's not head of Central Command like General McKenzie, or even U.S. Transportation Command. He's not the chief of staff of the Army. He's an Army general, which does have command. He's an advisor. He's an advisor to Secretary Austin, Defense Secretary, and to the President of the United States. So he doesn't have any command power. So if he was trying to insert himself into any command process, that would not be his job. Now, depending on which transcript of this book you read, he was telling those who were involved in the process that before you do this, come to me to make sure you're doing it right. I want you to do this properly. In other words, if President Trump gave an order to launch a nuclear missile. And people need to understand how this works, this process. It's not just a president, pushing a button or flipping a switch. There is a process where the president has these codes, as we know, in the so-called nuclear football. He transmits these codes, and it's verified that it's him. It's a process, but the process is designed to do it somewhat quickly in case we're under attack. But Milley, doesn't have command authority. So if he was trying to then essentially take command of that process, that would be wrong. Whether he was telling these guys, look at me first and make sure you're doing it correct, then that's something different. So I hope that helps.
I suppose we'll hear more about this when he appears before the Senate Armed Services Committee, and I guess some of the members of the House are thinking about calling him in as well. Because the way I read, and don't have a copy of the book, none of us do yet, I don't think it's even out yet, but the way I read the excerpts of Woodward's book, it did sound to me that what the general was saying was, I want to make sure you're not short-circuiting the process. I want to make sure that we follow this process that we have in place right down to the letter. If somebody calls and says, you don't need to do this, or just forget about that, you can't do that. The way I read the quotes from the general was that he was just basically saying, I want to make sure that everything is done right. Nobody, including the president, can short circuit this process. That's the way I looked at it. Maybe I read it wrong. I don't know.
That's how I read it as well. And I would say that that's what you want to have happen when you're talking about whether it's President Trump or any president. You want to make sure the process is right when you're about to launch a nuclear weapon. I mean, I'm not trying to be cute here. I mean, come on, it's a huge deal.
But I can also understand what the general was concerned about was that Trump might try to short circuit the process. And we'll find out more. I want to be clear, but I don't.
Howard,
what I read, I didn't get the sense.
I got to tell you, Howard, I want to interrupt you right there. Forget about the nuclear launch aspect of it. There was a strong concern within the Pentagon that after the election, or even up to the election, that President Trump would start a war or start some kind of conflict or order some kind of military strike, for political reasons or his personal gain reasons, as a politician. That was a real concern within the Pentagon. And it was enhanced after he removed Secretary Esper as defense secretary and put in another individual as a temporary defense secretary. In fact, he purged, if you remember right after the election, he purged the top officials from the Defense Department, the civilian officials. So there was this genuine concern at the Pentagon that this was a possibility. Again,
And
not a
I
nuclear
think that
launch, but a military strike.
Right. But yeah, exactly. And Tom, we need to run, of course, as always. We never have enough time for everything.
Yeah.
The argument that the president, that the military takes an oath to the Constitution, not to the president. Does that issue come into play in situations like this?
Yeah, that's what General Milley has been saying, ever since essentially last summer and the Floyd, demonstrations in D.C. The military takes the oath to defend the Constitution, like members of Congress and the president and anyone else. That their loyalty is to the country. The president is the commander-in-chief, and he or she gives the order, eventually the orders that they follow. But the oath is to, that's why there's that mysterious phrase about following lawful orders. That,
Yes.
If somebody, says something, it's not a lawful order. However that's interpreted, that can never get an answer to that. That's a difficult one. It's, you follow the Constitution, and the president is the commander-in-chief, but your loyalty is the country and the Constitution.
It's unfortunately probably one of those things you want to be intentionally vague because you don't want it to be too, it's got to be almost judged on a case-by-case basis. I would guess, what is a lawful order? I don't know. All right, Tom, as always, good conversation. Good stuff today. Thanks a lot. We'll do it again next. Actually, I'm not here next week. I'm off to Colorado for a week, so.
Okay. I did send you.
I'll talk to you in 2 weeks, I guess.
John, by the way, John Kirby, your audience can hear this, is eager to, be live on, not live on your show, but, give you an audio recording of your questions. So send them away and we'll set it up.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
good talking to you, Tom. Tom Squitieri, our national correspondent here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I made some comment about John Kirby. John Kirby is the Pentagon spokesperson, and I made a comment to Tom that, it's interesting. Kirby has been appearing much more frequently. Usually it's only the White House that we see in frequent press briefings, but we've been seeing more and more of Kirby as the Pentagon spokesman, and I just made some comment about that. And Tom went and talked to Kirby and said, I got this guy down in Wheeling, Monroe. He wants to know more about your job. And he says, okay, well, tell him to ask me some questions. So we'll get some questions from John Kirby here one of these days. 8:36, 24 till the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We are going to talk in the next hour of the show about how do you message COVID vaccines to the vaccine hesitant? Is it threatening them with their own death? Is it threatening them with the lives of their children? I don't mean you're going to kill them. I mean that COVID's going to, we're going to talk about that. Professor from the University of Southern Florida has done some research into this, literally looked into messaging these kinds of things. And we'll talk about that coming up next hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We've got some other stuff I want to get into, including our COVID update coming up in the next half hour, however. Before I do any of that, let's check headlines from Metro News.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
West Virginia.
Back in a minute, Biffy.
ZeroWasteFoundation.org.
Congratulations going out to Mountaineer football player Jared Bartlett on Monday. He was named as the Big 12 Conference's Defensive Player of the Week, and he made it easy for the voters. He had a season-high 5 tackles against Virginia Tech, including a game-high and a career-high 3 sacks. He also forced and recovered a fumble and had a quarterback hurry. Those 3 sacks, the most by a Mountaineer player since Darius Stills, did it against Baylor back on Halloween night of 2019. Jared Bartlett's 5 tackles tied his career high set against Kansas State back in 2020. His tackles for a loss and those sacks also setting career highs. Other individual award winners from the Big 12, Jalen Warren of Oklahoma State named the Big 12 Conference's Offensive Player of the Week. The running back also earned the Newcomer of the Week award, and the Special Teams Player of the Week honor goes to Jason Taylor of Oklahoma State. Some numbers for you as West Virginia gets ready to open up Big 12 Conference play on Saturday against Oklahoma. All-purpose yardage so far among Big 12 players, West Virginia's Winston Wright is second. When it comes to scoring, WVU's Letty Brown is second. Casey Legg, the field goal kicker, is ninth. Scoring touchdowns overall, Letty Brown comes in at number 4. Total offensive yards, Mountaineer quarterback Jared Deggy is third. At number 1 on that list, Spencer Rattler, the quarterback from Oklahoma, who West Virginia will see on Saturday night. That is today's Mountaineer Report. It's brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi, this is Hoppy Kercheval. Join me weekdays at 10:06, right after the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe for Statewide Talkline. I'll have guests, conversations, texts, phone calls, and all the big stories affecting West Virginia. So tune in weekdays right here on FM 98.1 and FM 97.7, The Watchdog.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
Oh, there's something so real about living local, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I love living local. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Said I love living local. WTRF is working for me. The Ohio Valley is where I love to be.
The best in local talk is on your FM dial. 98.1 and 97.7. We are the Watchdog. College football is back, baby. The Watchdog brings your favorite teams right to your speakers. Let's go, Mountaineers! On WKKX 98.1 FM and AM 1600. If hanging with Sloopy is more your style, WVLY 97.7 FM and 1370 AM is home to the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Watchdog is your home for the best in college football in the Ohio Valley.
Live and local for the Ohio Valley. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking for I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you.
8:44, 16 till the hour, 67 degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 65 here at home studios and at the Robinson Auto Group studios. Downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley, some clouds rolling around here at home, and the airport calls it clear, so it's clearing up at least. We are looking for a daytime high around 78 today. We're going to look for temperatures to drop even more tomorrow. A little bit of rain possible later in the afternoon, a good bit of rain likely tomorrow. We're number one again, Biff.
Number one in
This time. Yeah, you know, every day I get these, you all know this, the folks at Wallet Hub, the people who look at different things from different ways, economics and social issues and so on, and they rank all the states and so on. West Virginia, we're number one. We're number one as the least diverse state in America. In other words, we're pretty much all white. The story begins with Hispanic Heritage Month in full swing, women holding a record number of Fortune 500 CEO positions. The personal finance website Wallet Hub today releases a report on the least and most diverse states in America, and the least diverse state is the Great Mountain State. I mean, we don't even, usually when I look at these lists and they list several different individual aspects of it, usually we pop up somewhere, like one or two of these things we get a reasonably good rating, even though our overall rating is bad. Nah. We are 49th in income diversity. In other words, there's just not a lot of range of income in our state.
Who bailed us out?
Sadly, no. What's that?
Does it say who bailed us out as the 50th state in that category?
That'd be no. I don't know.
I'm going with Mississippi then.
I don't have. Well, let's just call it Mississippi. It's always good.
Or Arkansas.
Income diversity, 49th. Educational attainment diversity, 49th. Racial diversity, hey, we move up a little bit on racial diversity, 48th. I don't, people yell at me for saying, it means we got a couple black folks. I mean, seriously, that's what it means. Linguistic diversity, dead last at 50. Dead last. Nobody speaks anything except good old English. Actually, we speak West Virginia, hillbilly English sometimes. But linguistic diversity, 50th. Birthplace diversity, 42nd. In other words, most people who live here were born here, okay? Industry diversity, and right here is the key to all of this. We're 43rd for industry diversity. We just don't have diverse industries. We have coal, we have gas,
timber,
and we have Walmart.
And
we got opioids, I guess. That's it.
Mountain Dew, meth, pepperoni rolls.
Yeah, there you go.
That's West Virginia.
So that's it. Now, we do bump up all the way to 23rd. The only time we're above the halfway mark in household type diversity. That means that we have some traditional family households, mother, father, kids. We have some households with extended families, grandparents living there. We have single family households. So we're 23rd in household type diversity. That's average. We're okay with that. Household size diversity, 50th, dead last. And religious diversity, this is interesting, 42nd. I have to assume they're looking at denominational diversity more than actual religion diversity, because I would have to think that we are almost all Christian state in West Virginia. We do have some mosques, we do have some religion, we do have some Middle Eastern religions here. We actually have witches in our local area. In fact, I don't mean like the pointy hats and the double bubble toil and trouble. No, I mean officially Wiccans. But we're 42nd for religious diversity. Anyway, the bottom line is we're just not a diverse state. We are a bunch of low-income white Christians.
Who love our football teams.
I guess in that religious diversity, they might include snake handlers. And football teams, yeah.
Who love our football teams. That's us.
Yeah, it's so our what's the word I'm looking for here? Our athletic diversity probably is not very good either, because everybody loves football, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
the tiniest burg in this state has pride in their football team, right?
I mean, think about it. We're probably one of not too many states that actually don't. Well, I shouldn't say don't have a professional team, because I mean more of the bigger leagues. Yes, we have the Nailers and some of the minor league.
No, we don't have a. We don't have.
In terms of,
we don't have a Steelers or a Browns.
Right. That's what I'm talking. Because if I don't mention hockey, someone's going to go crazy on me and say, "Well, we've got a hockey team. They're semi-professional, okay?" But we don't
and
have.
We have a baseball team in Charleston.
Right. So I mean, we've got minor leagues, but basically, the heart and soul is the West Virginia football team. That's our version of a pro team. Is the West Virginia Mountaineers. That's it.
That's right.
People live and die with that team on, it doesn't matter what day of the week they play. That, in a sense, is our professional team. That's it.
That's a good point. That's exactly that. It is. You're right. The Mountaineers are to us what the Steelers are to, of course, the Steelers are to us too, but I mean, you're right. The Mountaineers are the state professional team. No offense to Marshall, but statewide, it's the Mountaineers, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say so. And like you said, no disrespect to Marshall, but, I mean, I don't know too many. I know some, but I know more West Virginia fans than I do Marshall fans. I'll put it that way.
Well, there is, how do I phrase this? there is a state pride issue in WVU. Again, I want to be clear. I'm not disparaging Marshall. I'm really not. But if you like Marshall, there's usually a reason you went there. Your kids went there. Maybe you're in that area. I don't think the state owns Marshall the way the state citizens own WVU, right? I mean, to a large extent, everybody is behind the Mountaineers. Oh, they criticize them, but I mean, it is our. So it's a good point you make.
And they rightfully deserve
spread
it.
Football out across the the state, and again, the tiniest little town has a football team.
Oh, I mean,
is proud of it.
It's Friday nights with high school football, and it's either again pick the day of the week West Virginia's playing, whatever day they're playing, that's it. It's high school football, and it's
Right.
the Mountaineers. And like you said, you get one of these teams that in these smaller communities, and you see it in Ohio. And the joke has always been, especially say a Shadyside, for example, the last person in Shadyside turns the lights off when they travel. I mean, I think other than the Coughlins down at the Tiger Pub that stay open, I don't know. They're probably the only business when the fans travel like they do that stay open in Shadyside. And I'm sure there are little communities.
Well, and Matt's staying open, just waiting for them to come home and have an after-game party.
Right. I mean, yeah. Other than that, I mean, but it's like that down in West Virginia. There are communities like that when teams travel on road trips, they go. They're right there with them, and you love to see that. There's nothing wrong with that. You love to see that, and that's just the way that we are.
Oh, exactly. But in terms, but what that means is we're not a very diverse state. We don't have a lot. It's not like we have. Yes, we have a hockey team. Yes, we have a baseball team. I'm sure there are areas of the state where people are into soccer or something. But the bottom line is the sport in West Virginia, football, right? I mean, that's the defining sport. So our diversity, even in athletic choices, is very limited. Anyways, Wallet Hub says we're number one. We're number one in lack of diversity. Always nice to get those. I get those Wallet Hub things every day. They come in every morning to my email box, and I'm almost afraid to open them. It's like, oh, God, where are we now?
Please, Mississippi, please, Arkansas, bail us out.
Yeah, somebody be there. Somebody be there. What was it, last week? We were the least happy state in the country.
We're least happy.
Somebody's got to be sadder than we are. No, nobody's sadder than we are.
We're not happy. We're not diverse, and we're fat.
I was just going to say the same thing. All of those things.
That's it.
All of those things. Yeah. All right. 6 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Coming up today, statewide talk line. Hoppy Kercheval begins with a conversation with General Jim Hoyer, the head of the state COVID-19 Interagency Task Force, to kick things off. Shortly thereafter, COVID-19 czar Dr. Clay Marsh will be on. If you were listening to my interview with Stephen Adams, was it yesterday? Stephen was on yesterday, right? If you're listening to my interview with Stephen Adams yesterday, at the very end, I said, Stephen, I had one more question I wanted to ask you, but I don't have any more time. The question I wanted to ask him, and maybe we'll have Brad in tomorrow or someone, I'm curious, Dr. Clay Marsh seems to always be saying things a little bit different than what the governor says. But Marsh has got to try and couch himself more carefully. He can't run a field of the governor, unlike Fauci, who would just basically say Trump's wrong, I'm just tell you the truth, and y'all don't believe that goofball over there. Clay Marsh doesn't do that. But you can tell, I think you can tell that Clay Marsh doesn't always agree with what the governor does, or more specifically, the governor's lack of action on mandates and so on. And I wanted to ask Stephen about that yesterday. Can you really tell that at those press conferences? Is there some kind of tension there? I'm sure Hoppy will not ask that question, because that would not be good. He probably wouldn't get Clay Marsh on every day if he asked a difficult question. But Clay Marsh on with Hoppy today. And then Brad will be in, Brad McElhenney, to talk to Hoppy about I love the phrase, the way Hoppy has phrased this. What Governor Justice is saying and doing about the pandemic. Well, that'll be a short interview.
Just play all his funny sayings and everything, and that'll explain it.
That's it. Yeah, or just play some baby dog clips or something. Yeah, that'll do it. Anyway, statewide talk line, Hoppy Kercheval coming up today, 10:06. That will be followed, of course, at noon. Today's a Tuesday, so it'll be the Neil Brown press conference today. So we'll talk about the Mountaineers, hear what the coach of the Mountaineers has to say. That will be at noon today on the Watchdog Radio Network. So tune in to hear what Neil Brown has to say in his press conference every Tuesday. We bring that to you live. When that is done, it's the Bill DeFabio Variety Show. Billy will be in to talk about all kinds of things. I have no idea what. Don't know. But some kind of good stuff, I'm sure. Then coming up this afternoon at 3, of course, Dave Weekly, and it is Hotline, the TV7 News. Don't forget, if you're heading home this evening at 5 o'clock, you can always get the news on the radio. If you're home at 5, you want to watch it on TV, more power to you. But if you can't get home, listen to the WTF TV7 News on the radio from 5 until 5:30, and then Mark Curtis and the West Virginia State News from 5:30 until 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, Tony Caridi is in to talk about the Mountaineers. So that's what we have coming up today. Let's see, Biffy, tomorrow is the high school sports line, for those folks who care about that, at 7 o'clock in the evening. Neil Brown Coaches Show and the Ryan Day Coaches Show on Thursday night on AM 1600 and on AM 1370. And then Friday, of course, we are back in our full Friday swing of things with Billy talking about sports on the Bill DeFabio Variety Show, the Quaker Steak and Lube Friday afternoon walkthrough. And are you back at the control boards this week, Biffy, for the games?
Oh yeah, I'll be here. I got no weddings this week, so I'm good the next couple weeks, and yeah, it'll be the Central game Friday, and then the scoreboard show, and then Metro News after the games, and Central at home at 7 against Man, and John Marshall Friday night on the road against Parkersburg South.
And as you mentioned, fifth quarter scoreboard show is back, since Biffy is back after the games, and then that takes us up until game night whenever Biff wears down. Usually about, 10:30 or so, Biff?
Yeah, around there.
When Biff wears down, turns things over to Dave Jacklin and to Fred Persinger, and it's game night. WVU and OSU both play on Saturday as well, and the Brownies are on Sundays. All right, it's 65 degrees, 67 at the airport, 65 at the home studios. It's 9 o'clock here on the Watchdog Morning Show. COVID conversation coming up next hour. ABC covers the world right now.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Deliver the first in-person UN speech.
Okay, Biff, hang on a second here. Got to find my notes. The guest at 9:10, he'll be calling in, is Shyam Sundar. That's the way I'm pronouncing it. If it's different, let me know. It's Shyam Sundar. I assume it's Shyam Sundar. If he tells you something different, tell me, because that's what I'm going to call him unless I hear something different. All right, and he's scheduled for 9:10. Okay, and after that, we'll do America Strong. I got to get it in today because I still have to get another one in this week before I go on vacation. So we'll do America Strong at some point. And COVID. I got to do a COVID update too because there are a couple of COVID stories I want. So, we got the darn tickets. All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that too. Jeez, peace. Okay. All right. Maybe I wasted too much time on Dr. Dave earlier. I don't know. All right, we'll get it figured out. We'll do it. But next, Shyam Sundar. Thanks.